I woke up this morning, thank you God, and I had this wonderful talk that I was going to give yesterday, all about the many paths and how they converge into the one and that whole thing. And that's still true. But it was really interesting. Spirit does this very often. All these guys will tell you that when you wake up in the morning, Spirit usually likes to get me up around 4 or 5 in the morning and go, hey, I got an idea. Let's talk about. And so I was reflecting, and it's because I do have so many people that I love in my life. They're coming to my city. Thank you. And I was reflecting on the fact that I'm celebrating my 25th year of ministry. Actually, 25th year of licensed ministry. I started much earlier than that. And if you're doing the math, I graduated from school when I was 14. So you can figure that out. And just thinking about what an amazing journey it has been. And then in thinking about this, I realized that it was 6 years ago this Sunday that I came down to chat with you guys about your next step. At the time, I had been here before in 2006 and did an interim ministry for about 3 months as we were looking, as Reverend Donald had left, and there was a void and there was an opening, and the community was in a place of what's next. And so I decided, what the heck, I only live 400 miles away. Why wouldn't I do that, right? Only 4 hours, it's not that big of a deal. And so I came down and we started working on the next step and manifested Reverend Elizabeth, and she led the community beautifully for about 3 years. And then in the meantime, I was being the minister's spouse and doing life, but the call to action was calling me. So I had started working with a group in Boise. So I'm living in Sun Valley, which was kind of the precursor, I realized. You see, God sets us up in stages. Like, it's an hour and a half drive from Sun Valley to Boise. No big deal, unless it's snowing like crazy. But and so I'd go over on Sunday, we'd do our thing, and I'd come back. And then I got a call from a friend here in Salt Lake and said, could you come down? I said, it's right on my way home anyways. I'll just swing by Salt Lake, and we'll have a conversation. Well, I didn't realize that conversation was going to lead me to being the interim minister. But so I said, we can do this. So I drove from Boise one week, and then the next week I'd come to Salt Lake, and the next week I'd go to Boise, and the next week I'd come to Salt Lake. We did that for 3 months, and then we decided, let's do this, let's give this a year. Let's see what we can co-create together and get ourselves into a different place and a different opportunity. And I'll come 3 times a month. I let the little group in Boise go. They were ready to go off on their own and do their thing. And so I've been reflecting on these little decisions that we make, these moments when we say yes and we have no idea of the full impact of that decision. You think, So I said, sure. So I didn't know that I'd end up commuting over 100,000 miles over the next few years to live in Idaho and work here and do that whole thing. And, 6 years later, I'm still here. What is it they say about lawyers? You don't ask questions you're not sure of the answer you want. I was like, oh, should I have just said that? And I'd be like, boo. So you don't get rid of me that easy, right? And amazingly, so many things have changed. I've ended a relationship, ended up living here. Just lots of things keep changing. And so I've been reflecting on how magnificent the divine is in our life, even when we don't understand it. So I was reflecting on various different people that have shown up in my life, and these moments of saying yes. Because you see, I was the person, when I escaped from church, when I was 12 years old, my parents divorced, and I no longer had to go to church. So that was kind of the silver lining of that whole drama, because I was not really a church person. Because here's what I thought. I thought, if there's only one God, isn't everybody talking about the same thing? And why would some get to go to heaven and others not? And why would people argue and fight? I just don't understand this. So I didn't do church anymore. You see, Joseph Campbell, who I love and adore, said to us, "We must let go of the life we have planned so as to accept the one that is waiting for us." And as I look back at the last 30 years, it seems like it's been a series of letting go of the life that I had planned in order to embrace the life that I had waiting for me. You see, I wasn't going to do church, but I managed to mess up my life enough that I decided I better do something different. Clearly, my program was not working. The last place I was ever going to go was to a church. But I met a friend, and she said, "I go to this center." Well, center, that's closer. And you will really like it. I was like, "You don't know me." But I said, come on, have an open mind. I met her at the appointed time. Now, this is in Phoenix, Arizona. Nice, warm August day. And I hadn't been to church since I was 12, so I did what I knew to do. I found a suit, put that on, got a Bible, dusted it off, and was off to church. So it turns out I was the only one there, besides the minister in a suit, and definitely the only one with a Bible. So, and I walked into this alternate reality, much like this group. They were playing on the organ somewhere over the rainbow, and I was like, well, clearly we are not in Kansas anymore. And but I was like, the minister stood up and said, "We believe all paths lead to the divine. We bless all ministers, priests, rabbis of all faiths because we know there's only one God." It's like, wow, now you got my attention. They started offering classes. I signed up. And one day they said, "We need some volunteers in our youth ministry." I thought, I like kids. I could do that. So I signed up, and no one called. I was like, so what I knew, and here's what I knew. What I didn't know is how they figured out who I was, because in my life at that time, my self-esteem was not high. And so I talked to the minister and said, we're sometimes not very organized, So, if you were worried about joining organized religion, you've come to the right place. And so they let me in, and I started teaching kids, and it was really fun. I started with the tweens, they call them, 9 to 12, and then I got graduated to the teen group. And, all of a sudden, my planned life kind of dissolved into this other life. For the kid that was never going to go to church anymore, I was spending all my spare time. Then I'm taking my vacation time to take 12 hormonal children off to camp. Hormones raging. And so I said, oh, sure, I could do that. So I'm taking my youth group in this van with all these kids. And we had this kid in our group. He wasn't old enough to go to camp. He was only 11, but he was really bright. Well, he was a nice kid. And, we all loved him. He was like, well, let's bend the rules. He really wants to go. And so we said, okay, let's do this. And so we allowed David Alexander to come to our camp. Now, David Alexander now is the chairperson of the Leadership Council. It's worked out okay for him. But let me just tell you the rest of the story. So we let this kid go to camp. We're going off to Catalina Island, which you've got to go to Catalina. So I've driven from Phoenix to San Diego. Then we get on the little ferry. We pack all our stuff, get to the island. And David, wonderful child that he is. Now, I've heard various different stories about what happened, but I originally heard it as he was throwing rocks in the air, but apparently it was somebody else was throwing rocks in the air, and one of them landed on his head, cut his head open. I love this. So all of a sudden he's like, I better do something. So he puts something, and our head wounds are gushing. So he comes up to the nurse's house, and all of the advisors are in a prayer meeting. So he's standing there being sweet. I open my eyes, and here's this, oh my God, Freddy Krueger moment. And I'm like, oh! Welcome to ministry. He's a wonderful, wonderful example of this. Teaching has been amazing in our thing. So everything that he's ever done right, I take credit for. You see, it's an amazing thing because that was that simple. Yeah, I would serve in a youth program. I had no idea that that would change the entire trajectory of my life. We got some Santa Rosa folks here, right? So another moment was at a C. Lamar. I'd just taken a church. I'd been there for a while, and there's a young man by the name of Edward Vioon, who really bright, amazing mind for those who know him. Just amazing, but very shy. And so Santa Rosa was having a reception for ministers because they were looking for their new minister. It's like, Edward, you have to go to this. He's like, no, I can't go to this. So I literally dragged him and I said, you're going. That's turned out okay, right? That's only been 20-some years, right? So I take credit for everything, well, he's done. And of course, I love to tell the story of Michael Gott, because Michael Gott is this amazing musician / minister who's impacted so many lives. And when I first met Michael, he was playing a piano in a little gay bar in Dallas. I was searching for new music. And so I go into the bar. So, don't you love this? So a minister walks into a bar, gay bar no less, right? And I hear this guy, and I'm like, he's got this voice of God. He's playing the piano. I'm like, oh my. So I go up to him, drop a little tip in the jar, and said, you've got to come play at my church. His eyes get this bad, Now he went to Oral Roberts University, so that's, he's like, he says, do you know where you are? I said, I know where you are, and I love you, and I want you to come. You're wonderful. And so he did. Now, I didn't find this out until just this last time he was here for our dedication. And he shared with me, he said, that morning I was shaking so bad because I had not had a drink that morning. And that was the beginning, not only of his sobriety, but it was the beginning of his step into ministry. And he's not only an amazing musician, but an amazing, loving presence in the world. So while I'm at it, I'm just going to take credit for that. Why not, right? Some people think I'm egotistical. I don't understand. No, I just really, I've been blessed to have so many. I could, don't get me started because I got stories on all of them. But, it's just been an amazing journey. And what I recognize with my fellow ministers and those of us that have surrendered the life we had planned to the larger life is there are so many miraculous things that happen along the way. And I know this is true for all of us because, as I always say, we all have a ministry. As Marianne Williamson says, if you have an address book, you have a ministry. We all are here to be in service to one another. Joseph Campbell said very brilliantly, a hero is someone who has given his or her life to something larger than oneself. You see, when I first started in metaphysics, it was in the 80s, and it was all about demonstration, all about manifestation. We had some really, there was kind of an idea that if you weren't driving a BMW, and for the women, if you weren't wearing silk dresses, you weren't really living. And I remember thinking about that at the time and thought, is that the divine plan? Not that there's anything wrong. I like BMWs. I like nice stuff. It's great to enjoy this. But ultimately, there's this larger life that calls to us. There's this larger something that is trying to be revealed through us. And so we have a wonderful class. We've got about 18 people in our basic principles class right now. It's really fun group. And we're talking about this idea that, you have to first establish that this universe in which we live is based upon laws and order. And that we are co-creative beings with that the divine, the creative intelligence creates, and it creates through us according to our thought and to our belief. And we learn the power of affirmation, and we learn the power of affirmative prayer, and we learn that we are vessels through which the divine can make itself known. And so initially, as we're learning this, we realize that we can take control of our life. In fact, I think the first sermon that I gave was take control of your life. Until the life that is waiting for you takes over. But no, it's absolutely essential. And yet, as we grow spiritually, as we evolve, then we get to realize that we get to surrender the life that we had planned so that the life that is waiting for us can be revealed. You see, we gain our power and then we surrender our power and we open to something greater that's trying to reveal itself through us and as us. And we let go of how we think it should be. You see, I look at this and I say, I go back to my goal setting. I've been a goal setter for a long time. I go back to my goal setting. Salt Lake was not on there. Never, ever, not on there anywhere. But either was being a minister or going to camp with some 12 kids that are going to throw rocks at their head or whatever, right? And yet the most joyous and wonderful experiences of my life have all come out of the serendipity of saying yes to the next step. And so we keep opening and surrendering and allowing something greater to make itself known. So I'm thinking, here I'm starting my 7th year with this community, just going, wow, how did we get here? And I'm pretty sure that this is the year I'm going to start to get a hold of this thing. Right? I got that first 25 down. I'm kind of into it and getting good at it and really looking forward to what's next. And I look at this community and I watch, that it's been here for 50 years. Isn't that amazing? For 50 years that this community has evolved, and some of you have been here for a long time and watched many of the changes that it's gone through and many of the challenges and many of the opportunities. We're facing a challenge today, even as we sit here. And after this meeting, I'm going to invite you to stay and listen to the Leadership Council so they can fill you in as to where we are, because we've always liked to practice transparency and talk about where we are and how we're addressing it and where we're going and how you can participate. And I know a lot of times people like to freak out. Oh, my God. But one of the things that 30 years of ministry teaches you is don't freak out, just what's next. And what I've also begun to realize time and again is there's this place between what was and what will be. And in our lives, we have this well-planned life and we've affirmed it. We've decided this is going to be. And then our perfect job that we thought we were going to retire from goes away. Or the spouse that we thought we would spend the rest of our life with goes away. Or our health, which has always been wonderful, all of a sudden isn't. We think, well, this isn't the life I planned. But it is the life that is waiting for us. If we can see it with the right eyes. If we can surrender to the greater possibility. But there is this very uncomfortable place between what was and what will be. And the essence of our spiritual work is in learning to be comfortable in the midst of uncertainty. Because if we believe that this universe is for us, if we believe that life is good and is always seeking its highest self-expression, then it's seeking its highest self-expression now. And yet we have to surrender. We have to let go of our preconceived ideas of how it's supposed to be and embrace the moment. And what becomes critical in this experience is that we be clear on the vision of who we want to be in the world. When the universe is not conforming and not allowing you to tell it how to be right now, we have to go back to who am I? What are the spiritual qualities that I want to bring forth into the world to provide greater love, greater harmony, greater joy, and greater self-expression? I remember when I came here 6 years ago, The reason I was coming was because the minister was leaving and they just moved out of their building. Other than that, everything was great. And they had no money. But, so being me, like, that sounds fun. And I only have to drive for 4 hours to do it? Yes, excellent. Through snowstorms? Excellent. And we said, but let's have another part to that. And so we began a journey, and we met in the barn, and that was fun. And then we looked at different opportunities of what we could do, and it was an amazing thing because somebody said, oh, Carol, Carol came to me and said, I know where we're supposed to meet next. I said, great. And she said, we could meet at the Columbus Center. They've got this amazing auditorium. I was like, great. She said, the only problem is they're not open on Sundays. Not so great. But we went and talked to them. And lo and behold, somehow they opened on Sundays. And we met there for a year and a half, 2 years, something like that. It was great. And then they decided not to be open anymore on Sundays. And so we looked at what's next, and everybody went through our normal freak out and how do we do and what do we do. And then that was the precursor to where we live now. It's worked out okay. It's kind of nice. So I share this because I can just share my journey, but I think we can all look at our own lives and go, maybe you're in that point right now. It feels like it's breaking down. Or maybe you're one step beyond that and it's broken down. And the new is not here. And so it's in that moment. Michael Beckworth told me these words many years ago. He said, when you can learn to be comfortable on the edge of uncertainty, you will know you've arrived. And if anything ministry does for you is it gives you a master's, probably a doctorate, in being comfortable on the edge of uncertainty. So yes, we are facing some challenges, but what I know is that every time we focus, pull our energies together, move in the right direction, we move through it, and our greater yet to be comes into expression. So I'm excited. I'm excited about who we are. I'm excited that everybody wants to come visit Salt Lake because we are the hot spot of metaphysical thinking. Right? Because that's what you think when you think Salt Lake, right? I was saying earlier, I always kind of had this image like there's roaming militia of LDS people wandering around with on their bikes trying to convince me to do something, right? It's actually kind of a cool place. It's all good. But you see, the truth is we are the largest and most influential New Thought community in all of Utah. Now, granted, the competition isn't huge. I mean, it's not like we had to knock down Mile High Church to do that, right? It's just, But it reminds me, when I get into my place of not knowing, I come back to why are we here? And why we are here is to awaken people to their spiritual magnificence, to help them understand that the universe, this universal love, this universal mind, this universal intelligence lives everywhere and it lives within them. And that the divine love is always seeking to know itself more fully. In the Bible it says to us that we are created in the image and likeness of the divine. Now some of us got that confused and thought we made up a God that looked like us. But it's actually the opposite. We are created in the image and the likeness of the divine, which is to say we have those same qualities of spirit, of love, of joy, of harmony, of peace, of abundance. And our job here is to keep opening and allowing more of that to be revealed in the world. So we have a very important purpose for existence. There's not a lot of places that you get to go in this town that remind you of the spiritual truth, that allow you to celebrate your spiritual magnificence, that teaches you not only that you're wonderful, but also helps you to have tools for daily living. So I keep coming back to why are we here? To allowing Spirit, even over my objections, to guide my life. Because when I do that, it always works. I look back now at the magnificent tapestry that has been my life, that looks nothing like my plan, but I got to have the life that was waiting for me. and I am grateful. Thank you. So as I said, I don't know where you are in your life today. You may be smack dab in the middle of the void. The old is gone, the new's not here. And it is in this place that we get to know the truth of who we are. We get to call forth those spiritual qualities, and we get to trust that indeed the universe loves us, and as Joseph Campbell says, we get to embrace the life that is waiting for us. Let us take a moment to pray together, shall we? As we simply breathe into this moment, as we sense and feel and know the divine intelligence, the one life, the one power, the one love that is ever present and always available. And as we come together in this moment in remembrance that this is the sacred moment of recognition, we realize that there is one life, one power, and that this one life is living itself through us. It is this one life that is beating our heart, breathing our breath. The Master said, neither lo here nor there, but the kingdom of heaven is within us. And so we open ourselves to recognize this state of consciousness, of unity, of oneness, of connection. And we remember this holy and sacred truth that we are each divine emanations of this one living Spirit. And therefore, those qualities of Spirit are our divine inheritance. The qualities of love, of joy, of harmony, of peace, of abundance are already freely given. And so our job is to remember and to allow that to be expressed more fully, more completely. We call forth the presence of wholeness, knowing that that wholeness reveals itself as health, as well-being, as vitality, operating at every level of our being, spiritual, mental, emotional, physical. We call forth the presence of divine love, the only reality. And in that recognition that there is only love, there is only the self-givingness of Spirit, we find it very easy to fully and freely forgive, to allow ourselves to see through new eyes and to hear with new ears. We're experiencing transformation as we release that which no longer serves us and allow divine love to reveal itself, to heal that which is unhealed. And we call forth the presence of abundance as we recognize that by our divine inheritance, we are created in the image and likeness. We are one with the source of all creation, and therefore the source of abundance. As we know and speak this word of truth, we joyously and freely give and joyously and unconditionally receive of the divine bounty that is always available to us. We allow ourselves to experience what it means to live in flow, fullness of life. We are indeed so blessed, so very, very blessed. And so we bless each other. We bless the world. We extend a blessing right here and right now to every man, woman, and child on this planet today. We hold a vision for a world that works for all. We hold a vision for a planet at peace, a planet in harmony with itself, a planet in which all life is nurtured and cherished. We take a moment to bless all priests, all rabbis, all ministers and teachers of every faith. For we know there are many pathways to the divine, and therefore we honor and celebrate them all. And we take a moment to bless this community. Specifically today, this community that continues to listen to the divine promptings, to follow divine wisdom, to move courageously and bravely into the world to be a bright light of healing and transformation. I'm so grateful for the gifts that each and every person brings to this community. So yes, indeed, we are blessed beyond measure. And so it is with joy and gratitude that I simply give thanks that this is so. As we release this word, we know that it is established, that it is good and it is very good. As together we say, and so it is.